Hi all and welcome to my KPMG Virtual Mission 102 done by Jacob Henry Ogus. On this slide, we'll be taking a look at the ratios of Novel Bank. One way to look how financially successful any business is to look and compare their financial ratios from year to year. Let's take a look at some of the ratios of Novel Bank, which will indicate how financially stable their company is. The first ratio we're going to look at is the liquidity ratio. The ratio we use to determine if a company is liquid or not is the current ratio. This ratio looks at your current assets over your current liabilities. The year 2018, the current ratio was 0.93 to 1. In the year 2019, the current ratio is 0.95 to 1. This shows the ratio has increased and the liquidity is getting worse, and Novel Bank is still not liquid. They have more liabilities than assets in their company. The next ratio we're going to look at is the solvency ratios. The two ratios used to determine if a company is solvent or insolvent are the debt-to-equity ratio and the debt-to-asset ratio. The debt-to-equity ratio for 2018 was 73%, and the debt-to-equity ratio for 2019 is 72%. The ratio decreased by 1%, and this is above average and a very high ratio, which is not good. The debt-to-asset ratio for 2018 was 93%, and for 2019 it was 93% as well. It stayed the same, however, this is a very high percentage, and both these ratios show how Novel Bank is in. The last ratios we're going to look at is the profitability ratios. The two ratios used to determine the profitability of Novel Bank are net income margin and return on assets. The net income margin for 2018 was 12.41%, and for 2019 is 9.66%. It decreased and now below average, which means profitability is a problem and sales are not generating enough income as needed. The return on assets ratio for 2018 was 0.72%, and for 2019 it was 0.5%. The ratio decreased, and this means they are not generating as much revenue from assets as they were before. These ratios show that Novel Bank is not a profitable company. Now we are going to look at the risk assessment template that Assurance filled out and completed for their client Novel Bank. We're now going to look at some details that they had to fill out. The name of the company and their client is Novel Bank Limited. The auditor's name is Sherlock Holmes. The lead partner is Thomas Ferguson. The background check was completed and attached. The date it was completed was on the 19th of August 2020. Now I'm going to give you some brief background about Novel Bank Limited. Novel Bank Limited was incorporated in August 2000 in South Africa, with the main line of business being retail and business banking, serving individuals, micro, small and medium enterprises, including public sector institutions. The bank has grown rapidly in the last few years and now consists of 16 branches operating in the Southern and Eastern Africa region. It is now the workplace to 396 employees across these branches, and in addition to this growth, the bank also added corporate and investment banking to its service offering. This expanded their market share to include corporations in the mining, agriculture, and manufacturing industries. There were some key management and ownership changes that took place within the business. The Chief Financial Officer, Desmond Mully, resigned abruptly in May 2020. Currently, Mark Sent is acting in this capacity. He holds a diploma in business administration. Mark Sent attends the same church as Yvonne. An appropriate background check was completed. A fully detailed appropriate background check has been carried out and documented by Joanna Watson, who is the senior accountant. There has been an email sent to Sherlock Holmes, who is the manager. There are many association risks that Assurance believe Novel Bank Limited are going through. The NCR has issued a compliance notice to Novel Bank Limited for allegedly charging consumers on-the-road fees on motor vehicles, financing credit agreements. The bank's chairman has been in and out of court for the 5th time this year, testifying in a defense against allegations of delinquency in her role governing the board of directors. The wedding between the chief executive's daughter and the finance minister's son has also taken place. Now I'm going to discuss the integrity of Novel Bank. Novel Bank Limited was incorporated in August 2000 in South Africa, with the main line of business being retail and business banking, serving individuals, micro, small and medium enterprises, including public sector institutions. The current management of the company is comprised of a board of directors. On the board is the chairperson, vice chairperson, chief executive officer, chief financial officer, and 2 executive directors. The major shareholders in the company are the South African government with 25% of shares, the Yvonne Stool Trust with 10% of shares, and pension funds with 20% of shares. The remaining shares are owned by the public and other investors. The key personnel and finance team is comprised of individuals and board members operating within the company. From all this information I've gathered, I cannot find a reason as to why there would be any doubt with regards to the integrity within the company. Their business is in trouble financially as they are insolvent, not liquid, and suffering with profitability issues. However, I do not believe that has to do with integrity of the workforce, rather poor decision making or incapable work being done by employees and managers. Novel Banks Political Association. The government of South Africa is a 25% shareholder in the company, and the chief executive's daughter is married to the finance minister's son. The assured auditor's risk of Novel Bank. This reflects a big risk to Assured because of the publicity and certain actions of Novel Bank's business. There's lots of evidence to show how Novel Bank's financial situation is worsening every year. Their ratios are decreasing and getting worse from 2018 to 2019. The business is not performing. There's poor management and leadership skills being shown by the management, as the chairperson Yvonne Stool has been involved in signing contracts that have led to major and significant losses within the business. It has been identified that the previous auditors have not been paid 40% of what is owed. If this would have to continue in the future, Novel Bank can financially harm Assured. Their business in Zimbabwe has suffered major losses as well. Problems affecting the continued existence of Novel Bank. The failure to pay suppliers or advisors, poor cash flows from operations, as well as declining operating or financial results. These are the financial risks of Novel Bank. Yes, the prospective clients do face financial problems. I found these observations according to their ratios. The current ratio of the company is 0.95 to 1, which shows that the company is not liquid and they are unable to pay or settle their short-term debts. The current ratio has increased from 2018 when it was 0.93 to 1, which means the company's liquidity is not getting better, only worse. This means that they have 0.95 cents available of assets to cover or account for 1 rand of liabilities. According to the solvency ratios, the company is at a big risk. Their debt to equity ratio for 2019 is 72%, and in 2018 it was 73%, which is above average and very high. The debt to asset ratio for 2019 is 93%, and in 2018 it was 73%, which is also extremely high and worrying. The company is insolvent and a high-risk company, according to their solvency ratios. Looking at the profitability ratios was also very troubling. The net income margin for 2018 was 12.41%, and the net income margin for 2019 is 8.5%, which is considered very low. The return on asset ratio decreased from 2018, when it was 0.72% to 0.5% in 2019. This is not good at all and a very bad ratio. The company's profitability is bad and at risk. The reputational risk of Novel Bank. They are a risk as they are heavily involved with the government and politics, as well as the media and public eye. They are not seen in a positive light by the public. Financially, they are not successful at all. The company is not liquid, it is insolvent, and they are suffering with major profitability issues according to all their ratios. The resources used to complete client evaluation. The resources used to complete the client evaluation was the information from the case study, as well as financial ratios and indicators to determine if Novel Bank was financially stable or not. I also used the publicity reports that were on Novel Bank to determine their reputation. Lastly, I used the background check that was completed. Governance frameworks and structure delineate power and the governing or management roles in an organization. They also set rules, procedures, and other informational guidelines. In addition, governance frameworks define, guard, and provide for enforcement of these processes. There's a risk. As Zahir mentioned, it was unfortunate that Desmond Mali left the bank as he was very passionate about corporate governance. His relationship with the CEO had become unhealthy as they did not seem to agree on a number of matters, resulting in Mali leaving the bank abruptly. Novel Bank had a lack of reliability and a lack of inconsistency of reliability, as they had a negative publicity in the media and their reputation is not good at all. Are there any uncertainties in relation to conflicts of interest or independence or other regulation that may restrict or prohibit the audit service? The auditor needs to be sure that it can service the client with appropriate skills and resources, but also to protect itself from any conflicts of interest that could arise during the engagement. Additionally, the public and other parties need to be assured that the audit was conducted appropriately and the auditor was able to exercise the required level of independence in fact and in appearance. It is therefore the responsibility of the auditor to assess if this new risk is acceptable to the firm.
Myself, Jacob Ogus, the assisting auditor at Assurance Incorporated, have done the necessary checks, risk assessment templates, and have come to my decision and conclusion to decide that Novel Bank is a risk to the company and I will not be taking them on as a client.
Lastly, the referencing for the case study.